When Battleborn was first released, it was dead on arrival. It released next to Overwatch, one of the most hyped games of all time from one of the biggest developers of all time, Blizzard. So people who defended Battleborn usually used the defense that Battleborn's a good game, it's just it launched in a bad time and that's why it never took off at all. So I thought, with now being free to play, I'd go back and have a look at the game itself and see if it's actually good, or if the Overwatch excuse is just an excuse. So let's take a look, shall we? As of the time of recording, I've played about 4 hours of Battleborn, and it wasn't fun. Oh no, there's my opinion spoiled straight away. So far, of the 4 hours of Battleborn I've played the prologue missions, which you get for free. You don't get to play any more operations or any more of the story, unless you pay for the game. Now, when Overwatch was first released, I didn't really want to buy it at launch because it didn't have a campaign, because it was still around that time of Titanfall and stuff that had been... They were brilliant multiplayer games, but they didn't have a campaign, so the longevity... Not longevity, because the multiplayer is where the longevity is, but I feel most of the value of a game comes from a single-player campaign. But after my friends convinced me to buy Overwatch, I had a lot of fun with it. But Battleborn was in the different camp of it launched with a campaign or story mode or whatever. But from the first mission, it seems to be one of the worst stories ever. It constantly... the acting is terrible. The story missions are just sort of there. They're just sort of put together. And it uses a lot of... Basically, all the assets are ripped from the multiplayer, so it's basically a tacked-on single-player, like we used to have tacked-on multiplayers back in the days of Spec Ops: The Line. And because you only get access to the first mission, there's not really much I can say about it, whether the story's going to be amazing, there's going to be some twists and turns. But from what I played, it's not great. It seems to be fairly boring, so, you know. But it's free, so you might as well play it if you want to. Also, another thing, the characters are just not likable in any way, and that I'll bring this up more later when I talk about the multiplayer and the actual gameplay side of things. But the characters in the story and all that, this Doctor, I think his name was Cleso or something like that. He's not entertaining anyway. He tries to be like sort of like crazy mad professor who eats popcorn in the background while you argue and stuff. It's just not funny. It's not funny at all. But I don't know. But they have him there. He's sort of comic. He's the comic relief character that has no comic relief whatsoever, which is kind of a problem when his joke derails the actual gameplay, and you just sit there thinking, "Why am I playing this? Why am I listening to this?" However, one thing I did love about the campaign from that one mission I played, the cutscenes that they use sort of like I describe it as anime-like animation style, and it looks amazing. They look gorgeous. Like if they could do the whole game like that, it would make it so much better and so much better looking. Because, moving on to the technical side of things, the game didn't seem to run that well. I was running it on the highest settings possible at 1080p. But even still, my computer can run Overwatch maxed out at 1080p, perfect 60 with VSync on, and it probably averages around 90, 100 frames per second. Battleborn, I got constant stutters, and I had to turn the graphics down at one point because it couldn't handle one of the maps, kept dropping down to like 50, even with VSync on, which is a bit unplayable for me anyway. So I don't know what the problem was there. On top of that, another technical issue I found was that with depth of field turned on, I'm just going to go with that because I can't say depth of field without saying it in the middle of a sentence for some reason. Anyway, with that turned on, I got this bug occasionally in the gameplay, and you'll see some of the cutscenes if you're watching the gameplay of it. It was the background was in focus while the characters actually moving were out of focus for some reason. I don't know why this is a problem. This wasn't found earlier in development. I mean, earlier in development, the game's been out for like a year. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous that that's still a bug in this version of the game. Whether that was up to something else, I don't know. I didn't test it I didn't test it again. It's just something I noticed. It might just be a one-time bug that I experienced and no one else will. But you'll have to check that out for yourself if you play the game, because it's free to play now. You might as well give it a try if you didn't play it when it launched, which is to say most people didn't play it when it launched. Now this is the main bit. When it was released, a lot of people called it a poor man's Overwatch. That's mostly because the game uses certain hero characters like Overwatch does, with like unique personalities and everything. But I would compare it more to a MOBA style game, at least what I've played of it. More of a MOBA style game than an Overwatch style game. Because while you have objectives that you need to take, you also have minions that you can that constantly respawn and fight for you, sort of League of Legends Dota style, or any MOBA, I guess. And then you also have stronger NPC enemies, or like mini bosses that once you kill them, they fight for you once you take the point, which is similar to other games like League and Dota. So I would compare it more to a first-person MOBA style game. So something like Smite, I guess, would be quite a close comparison. So I would more call Paladins as more of an Overwatch clone, if you want to use that term. I don't think it is. I think Paladins is more of its own game. Now, speaking of heroes, the heroes in Overwatch are very diverse. You have a lot of different characters from a lot of different places around the world, with each having their own personalities. Now, all these characters, while you might not like them all, like fucking Mei, they all act differently. They all have different voice lines. They all reply to different things differently. And what's quite nice, I quite like as well, when you have two characters that have a history together, you sort of get these at the start of the game. You get these little voice lines between them, which I think is quite nice. Now, in Battleborn, the characters are similar to this. They each have their own personalities. But from what I can tell, none of the characters are at all likable or or funny or interesting in any way, shape, or form. The game just feels quite dull. None of the characters sort of sprung out to me as something I can't wait to play that character, or I love playing that character. For example, I play Sombra a lot. Not because she's not very useful and competitive. I don't really play competitive, but even playing quick play, I like to play Sombra. And that's because I like her character. She's sort of a quite interesting character, being a hacker sort of style DPS. Now, in Battleborn, none of the characters struck me as interesting. There are a couple of characters that I played a bit, like Wrath. I think that's his name. He has two swords. He's quite fun to play. But I played him not because he was interesting, just because he was quite easy to play and quite powerful once you learn how to play him. So, saying that it copies Overwatch's character sort of style of unique characters and unique personalities would be wrong, because Battleborn copies it in the same way someone reading Upside Down underwater in a different language copies Overwatch. It misses every single nuance that Overwatch has between its characters. So, on that front, if you like characters with no depth and just no personality, then you go play Battleborn. Also, the voice acting for most of these characters is terrible. It is awful. Which, if you care about that, is just something you should note before you play the game, and see if you can notice it as well. Now, this is going to be quite sort of tinfoil hat, but another reason that I think Battleborn didn't do quite so well is Gearbox themselves. Now, for the last few years, Gearbox, and more specifically Randy Pitchford, has, in some gaming circles, made himself quite the pariah. There was his famous sock puppet song that he sang, which is, even if you don't agree with a lot of the people, if you don't agree with the movement that he was trying to make fun of, it's one of the cringiest things you will ever see in your life. It is awful. I don't know if it was intentional. It seemed quite racist, calling that anybody that he disagreed with him was just a sock puppet account for someone else. Now, I don't know if you've never seen that. I'll link it in the description down below. It's awful. It's so cringe. I can't watch it anymore because it's so awful. And I think that also, and Gearbox has also, the last few years, not released games that run particularly well, or released any games that are good. Talking about Duke Nukem Forever, and then you have Aliens Colonial Marine, obviously, Jesus. Two of the worst games ever made. Now, the blame to Gearbox is often been sort of toned down a bit in the media, and more specifically by them, but I still blame them quite a bit, and I don't think this helped with the sales of Battleborn at all. Because, someone who pre-ordered Aliens Colonial Marine based on the preview material, why would they pre-order Gearbox's next game? Why would they pre-order another Gearbox game? Why would they buy another Gearbox game after being screwed over by that game? Because it was released at a time when refunds on Steam weren't a thing, and refunds on Xbox and PlayStation weren't a thing either. So Battleborn started with a gunshot in its knee before it was even out of the gates. But none of this matters. What really matters is, it's a game, is it fun to play? And after 4 hours, I have no intention to play any more Battleborn. I don't think the gameplay is good at all. It feels like a first-person shooter from the mid to late 2000s. It feels lazy. It feels sloppy. It doesn't feel as precise as Overwatch. I've played Overwatch on PC and console. I've played Battleborn on PC and console, and both versions of Battleborn feel worse than Overwatch. I'm comparing it to Overwatch because that's what a lot of people have been comparing it to. But I don't think it's in the same league as Overwatch. I think it serves a completely different market than Overwatch does, but it should still be compared to it, because that's how character design and interesting characters is done right in a multiplayer game. Battleborn did none of that. Battleborn has nothing to its name that is any good. The map design is terrible. All the maps are basically the same, but with different routes to go through. They're all push forward to the same point. Oh, kill the spider walker, and then move on to the next one. The characters aren't interesting in any way, shape, or form. Some of the characters' abilities are quite interesting. Like Wrath, for example, he has spinning blades that are quite fun, but he's quite... So you can't really take out the big tanks as him, but you can sort of get in behind and work and kill them from behind. So I don't think Battleborn has anything going for it. I don't think that game can sort of make anybody want to play it again. I think Battleborn's time is gone. It's been and done. If it released in maybe 2009, it might have had a chance. It might have been played for a year or two by people. It's been out for a year. I don't even know what its player base is. Let's check its player base on Steam while we're at it. So as of May 2017, the game had 82 average players. And in the last 30 days, it had 144. Now, since going free-to-play, it currently has 1,500 people playing an hour ago. Now, this is very, very good. But, remember when... What was it called? I forgot what game it called. Evolve. There we go, that game. Remember when that game became free-to-play? It had a massive spike in players, but very, very quickly, those players died off and the game went away. Now, Battleborn hasn't even had a spike as high as Evolve's. So, and I can see this game going more of the same way, but a lot quicker. I don't think Battleborn has the staying power at this point to last. Everybody who played Battleborn played it for the first thing, decided that they didn't like it, and then stopped playing it. The people who did like it couldn't play it because there's no one to play with. Now there are people to play with. The people who bought the game originally are pissed off because they lost their money. I don't think Battleborn's going to last much longer. I think Gearbox have dug their grave and they need to sit in it now, because this is what they've done to themselves by being rude to their community, by Randy Pitchford singing one of the worst songs ever heard on the internet, and then condescendingly mocking everybody about the game, and saying, "What? Oh God, do you remember his tweet as well? God, do you remember that?" So I just found it again, and Battleborn is FPS, hobby grade co-op campaign, genre blended, multi-mode competitive esports, meta growth, choice in epic Battleborn heroes. That tweet is incredible. And then in the replies as well, one guy says, "How can it be an esport when no one plays it?" And then his replies, "How can you be an arsehole when no one follows you?" Randy, this is not how you speak to your community. It's like he thought Battleborn was so good that he couldn't believe anyone disliked it. So anyone who liked it is obviously an arsehole going against the grain. It's so funny. It's so brilliant. And Battleborn is dead. I don't like Battleborn. That's what I've tried to sum up in this video. I'll sum it up now. Battleborn is bad. Not just because it launched against Overwatch. Not just because it launched against any other game. If this game had launched in the middle of summer, where every other game server went down and the only game server up was Battleborn, people would go outside and play rather than play Battleborn. It is not fun. For me, you might find it fun, but that's my opinion. I don't like this game. I like the cutscenes. They're alright. Thank you for watching. If you disagree with me, put it down in the comments. Probably some of you will disagree that Battleborn is probably the best game you've ever played. It's not, but unless you've played Battleborn on its own, then it probably is the best game you've ever played. Thank you for watching. Good night.